G'day everyone, it's Kim here from EPCR. Thank you for tuning in once again. I thought I'd sit outside today in my little courtyard surrounded by my herbs. I apologise if the sun gets too intense or if you hear any random noise from my neighbourhood. We'll see how we go. Today I want to talk about culture in the workplace. When we think about culture, we generally think about it in the broad sense of world culture, and the word may even conjure up images of Indigenous culture or culture in foreign countries. We think of art and stories, dance, food, architecture, and of course all of that is part of culture, because when any group of people exist together in a cooperative fashion, social norms and customs are established, stories and myths are shared, and roles are established. So cooperative growth and learning's enabled. In a broad sense, culture's informed by existing laws and traditions. It's informed by the leadership structure, the needs of the people, things like warmth and permanence of shelter, the size of the group, as well as their adaptability and innovation and access to resources. In workplaces, though, culture already exists in the context of the business, its location, its industry, and the laws that govern their operations. All of those influences are fixed. So workplace health and safety requirements, minimum wages, conditions, and industry standards are all informed by external processes. But there are other internal influences which impact workplace culture, and they're more flexible and changeable, like who the leaders are and how they operate. And that is what I want to talk about today. So leaders bring influence with their personal values and leadership styles, and everyone has these. In every sense, fitting in with the values of an organisation or business is essential to being effective and happy in that workplace. But who dictates the values of an organisation or a business? Generally, it's the owner or the CEO or a management committee. I worked with a greyhound rescue organisation in recent years whose management committee decided that they wouldn't raise funds using traditional methods like sausage sizzles because their values determined that all animals are important as the ones they rescue. So in that sense, the values of the leadership inform the practice and the policies of the organisation as a whole. And this happens really organically in business and service. When a coffee shop owner chooses to purchase environmentally friendly takeaway cups because they don't want to use plastic, that is practice culture informed by values. Of course, if they grow big enough and the owner puts another employee in charge of the business, then they may make a different purchasing choice. So as leaders, clarity of those central values is really essential. Religious organisations do it all the time. If you've ever seen a job for an position in a church-based humanitarian organisation, there's always reference to the values of the organisation. And if you can't demonstrate your alignment with those values, then you probably won't get the job. So clarity on that level is beneficial to everyone. Employers get to know that everyone's singing from the same hymn book, and as an employee, you know what the expectations are. So we know that values inform leadership practice, but they also inform work conditions. If an organisation or business has a value of excellence in their work, then it follows logically that they would support the professional development of their staff to encourage improvement. There'll be clear policies around study leave and built-in development plans to upskill the workers. When we have a value of being family friendly as a business, we ensure workers are supported to structure their engagement with the business around their personal commitments. And in those instances, leaders need to align with the values and make management decisions influenced by those values. But the beautiful thing is it works both ways. That barista who's passionate about the environment is going to be more inclined to remain with an employer whose values align with theirs, even if they're offered more money elsewhere. Similarly, an employee who has a great experience of flexible working arrangements will be less likely to jump ship when a more lucrative offer comes along. So the trick is to ensure that middle management is displaying the values of the organisation. Recently, I was told of an employee in human services who had expressed some concern around the COVID-19 pandemic. Her immediate manager effectively dismissed her concerns and said she was overreacting and told her to stop being so dramatic. And all of this was in front of other staff. So this case is particularly concerning because most of the world at the moment is concerned around the impacts of this pandemic. And if this worker was shut down so harshly by this manager for this issue, then goodness only knows how they might deal with other more personal issues. And that clearly doesn't align with the values of an organisation that an organisation like this would like to model. So respect, understanding, and more importantly, support. We know that mental health is an intrinsic aspect of workplace health and safety, so dismissing the concerns of a co-worker during what is possibly the most personally and socially challenging event of our lifetime is so bad it's incredible. It's the mental health equivalent of pushing her down the stairs during a fire evacuation because you thought she's moving too slowly. Except now she's knocked over more people in her descent down the stairs, and the tangle of bodies at the bottom has created a jam that no one can get past. You know, when someone has the courage to be vulnerable in front of you and others, dismissing their concerns and belittling them not only impacts that individual, but also everyone else in earshot. And now no one feels safe, to be honest. So as leaders or business owners, how do we ensure that that kind of stuff doesn't happen? Culture comes from the top, and the topmost level of management has to model the behaviour for it to be adopted by the other levels of management. And you have to be sure your managers and leaders are doing that. In management meetings, rather than simply focusing on business goals and finance, a leader could ask every other participant to give an example of how they supported their team and give individuals feedback on times they noticed this happening. Of course, that leader needs to model that behaviour as well, or none of this works. So those types of strategies encourage people to move in that direction. And you know, there's always going to be exceptions. But if a culture of being allowed to be vulnerable existed within an organisation, workers will feel more able to be honest about the challenges they face in their day-to-day duties. So in my example, the manager could have used that opportunity to engage with the other workers present in a really genuine manner. She could have admitted to some concern of her own and listened to the concerns of the other staff. She could have provided some reassurance at whatever level was possible. And even if there was no action she could have taken other than listening, she could have enabled those workers to feel more comfortable about raising concerns in the future. And that's so important because I imagine the culture of that workplace became a little less honest and a little more toxic that day. And we spend a huge chunk of our days in the workplace, and workplace culture is intrinsically linked to mental health. When workplace culture is off, employee turnover tends to be higher. And of course, onboarding and training new staff is costly to both business and to clients. So as a leader, if you notice you can't keep your staff, it may be because the culture is toxic. So how do you turn that around? Well, unfortunately, it's not a simple process. It really requires an honest look at what's going on in the business with an objective eye. It's one of the reasons organisations conduct exit interviews for staff to determine why they left. But remember, if honesty isn't valued in the business, people may not feel able to be honest, even in an exit interview. So EPCR work on culture with workplaces. We conduct objective assessments of workplace interactions, and we coach leaders to model the values and behaviour the business is wishing to introduce. If your workplace is struggling with culture, a consultant is your best strategy for change. You can contact EPCR on our website, www.epcr.com.au, or our Facebook page, or right here on YouTube. Comment on this video or message us directly. Please support us by liking this video and subscribing to our channel so you can be notified of all the latest videos. Thank you so much for watching once again. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.